Today, I want to share with you the story of how I've managed to end up in the studio in Amsterdam. Yeah, that's right, we're joining Amsterdam with no money, no connections, no network, no fancy brand partner, and a small community of super engaged and loyal supporters. This episode is going to be your shot of delusion and inspiration. I want to share the story of how literally just knowing one person, we've managed to set up this beautiful studio, invite all these founders and have this really cool season. And I think it's time to reveal our producer. Are you ready to come on? This is the first man we've ever had on Reclaiming Bossy.
I'm Kwame. I'm Bulgarian. I do content creation for a living, so I film stuff for big soulless corporations and I try to make it fun. I looked into ways to make a little bit of money out of it. Stuff that I already enjoyed doing or places I enjoyed being at. Nice one, Anna. Add that to the blooper reel. But you attract what you already portray.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Reclaiming Bossy podcast. My name is Mahika, and today I want to share with you the story of how I've managed to end up in the studio in Amsterdam. Yeah, that's right, we're joining Amsterdam with no money, no connections, no network, no fancy brand partner, and a small community of super engaged and loyal supporters. I want to share this story because I want you to take this as your inspiration to just do stuff. This is the mentality that's allowed me to start a podcast at uni, start a business at university whilst finishing my degree, go teach myself languages, try things that are completely out of my zone of comfort. And I really, one of these things that I really believe in is just acting before you can overthink yourself out of something. Because often we get so limited with our goals, with our plans, with our dreams, because we're so focused on how we can make it happen. But sometimes all it takes is just the first intention and the first domino, and then things become more and more obvious. Also, you don't have to do everything by yourself. So I want to tell you the story of how we ended up in Amsterdam today and how we're reclaiming Bossy internationally and some of the plans for this podcast. If you're new, hi, welcome. This episode is going to be your shot of delusion and inspiration, but on this podcast, we also talk about how to build a template for your dream life and your career. I interview incredible founders, creators, leaders, builders across different spaces to give you inspiration, evidence, examples on how to create a life that makes you really happy in a career. And then there's also solo episodes where I talk about how I'm doing the same, how I'm building a business, how I'm making this podcast better and better with every episode, and how I'm on the side also creating my dream life in terms of friendships, relationships, travel, fun, joy. And like I said, this episode is just about how can you bring more action into your life. I have this really good friend of mine. Her name is Erifili. I'm going to link her stuff below. I call her my Midas friend because everything she touches turns to gold. She is an incredible founder and her interview is in this podcast as well. I'll link that below too. But she is Forbes 30 under 30, runs a Gen Z social media agency, is a best-selling author, has a Substack with a huge following, is a content creator, is a photographer, is a musician, and is such an amazing human. And I was like, how do you do it all? And she said, I find things that align to me and I just do things. And one of her most viral Substack essays has 1 million views. And it's all about this concept of literally just doing things. And so let's talk about Amsterdam. I have been working on this podcast for 2.5 years now. My mission with this podcast is to basically bring visibility around how to create your boldest, bossiest life. I started this as a passion project in my room with no budget, no experience, no money. And slowly it's got better. But I started 19 years old when I found out that more men named David get funding for their businesses than all women combined, and how only 2% of women get funding for their businesses. And I wanted visibility for the next generation of people that are building either their businesses, their careers, their lives, that it's possible and that there's opportunities out there for you and there's people that are doing it. And I didn't want to just show that women are successful, but success is diverse. And that doesn't just mean the color of your skin or your neurodivergence or whatever, these tick boxes, but also what you value, what you want to create. And so that's why I created this platform. When it started, like I said, I started small and my mission is to make it better and better. It initially was, how can I make the production better? And so that came slowly with more experience, more expertise, learning about podcast production, working as a podcast producer, getting grants, getting funding, getting into studios. Now we have studios in London. Then it was working with musicians to make custom music. So the intro music that you guys hear is made with like a custom, like real life musician. She's awesome. I'm going to link her down below as well. And I said, this is what I wanted for the track. And now this is just the Reclaiming Bossy sound. And then also I wanted the brand to be strong. So we rebranded, and I kind of took you guys through that whole journey of why you can rebrand and change at any point in your life, as long as you know what you stand for and what you care about and what's fun to you. And so we kind of reached this point where I was like, I don't know how to make this podcast better. And I want to keep making it better and better and better. And I realized a lot of the conversations were getting a little samey on this podcast because it was very in my bubble of the people that I knew in my city. And I was calling up my friends and I was like, do you know cool people that I can interview on this podcast? And a lot of my friends said, what does that even mean? What does that mean? And I was like, yeah, cool is so subjective. Inspiring, inspirational is so subjective. And I realized that one way that I wanted to make this more fun was to get the stories of people from different places around the world. And I decided Amsterdam would be a really cool place to start because there is so much talent here. And I feel like it's outside of the bubble in the UK, but there is still so much like accessibility in terms of getting there and interacting with the businesses. Also, I feel like there's so many things happening with tech. And this season, in this Amsterdam season, I've got 2 interviews with founders. We have someone who works in products and in wellness and creating a brand, and then someone who works in completely different sector in agricultural tech. And we talk about blockchain and Web3 and agriculture and like data and transparency. And so I really wanted to bring those stories out in a way where these conversations today reminded me how different versions of success can be and how different stories can act. And so welcome to the Amsterdam season. How this happened is such a funny story because I was planning to do a New York season. And then part of that reason was because my previous partner used to live in the US, and I thought, I want to go see him, and there's lots of cool founders in the US. Let me go make this season. And we broke up, and everyone on this podcast knows because there's an episode also linked below. But I decided, how can I do that anyways and do it in a small way that still feels possible for me? And that's when I decided to do this Amsterdam season. Context, I didn't know anyone in Amsterdam 3 weeks ago. The only 2 people I knew in Amsterdam, like at all, was one of my best friends from my study abroad, and this guy who you're going to meet in a second, we're going to have a reveal, that I met once on a pub crawl. And I want to share the story of how literally just knowing one person from like a study abroad experience and then one person one time, we've managed to set up this beautiful studio, invite all these founders and have this really cool season. And so before I get into the details, I think it's time to reveal our producer. Are you ready to come on? This is the first man we've ever had on Reclaiming Bossy, but I think it's really cool. And I want to show you how when you do things, doors open up for you. And not only can you attract new opportunities, but you can make new friendships. You can learn so much. I've learned so much today about like tech and how things work and just about different cultures and perspectives and everything. So time for, are you ready? You ready? The first question I ask usually on this podcast to the guests is, can you please introduce yourself as if you're speaking to someone you've never met? So can you please...
Ooh, okay. I'm Plamen. I'm Bulgarian. I do content creation for a living. So I film stuff for big soulless corporations and I try to make it fun so that people don't hate it as much as they should. I love sports. I love my friends. I love my family. That's all I can say.
And what does Reclaiming Bossy mean to you? Like, tell us the story of how are you in the studio today?
Oh, okay. What it means to me is that I met this girl from the UK one time on a pub crawl in Madrid, and all of a sudden, like 2 years later, I get a text. Who do you know in Amsterdam that I can interview, and can we find a studio? Yeah, we could. We could. And this is why we're here at my office, and we made it happen. It's actually quite a nice setup. We did pretty well.
Yeah, and okay, so for context, because you're making me sound like a stalker.
Sorry, no.
So we met on a pub crawl when I was in my little Dora the Explorer party girl era. And I remember the Plamen said that he worked in advertising. And so a few years later, when I was looking for people, like I said, I just decided I'm going to do stuff. And all I needed to get the momentum on making this happen was like the first domino. And so I thought, what do I need to make this happen? I'm going to get a space, then I'm going to get interesting people, and then I just need to go and be there. And so I had a place to be because I'm very lucky I have a friend. And then I was like, okay, I need a space. Now, with this came like a lot of pressure because I was like, oh, I've worked so hard to get into studio in London. It would feel like a backtrack to like go with my phone and like film in like a house or something. It just didn't feel like doing the brand service. I really wanted to do it well. But when I was looking up Amsterdam podcast studios, they were 800 euros for like 3 hours. And I was like,
It's tough out here.
yeah, like how can I make this happen? And again, I want to make this because I want to show anyone who's cool, young, creative, that wants to do things that you do not have to wait for a lot of money, resources, connections to do stuff that you care about, that is important to you, and actually execute it in quite a cool way. So we met one time on a pub crawl, and I decided, who do I know that's like, who do I even moderately know that's creative and is in Amsterdam? And I literally just went through my following and I was like, oh my God. And yeah, I sent, I remember sending you a message and just being like, hey, I don't know, I know you don't work in podcasting, but do you want to add it to like your portfolio of things that you do? And this is my idea. I sent him a voice note because I thought that if I give you a big scary message, it will be intimidating.
I hate voice notes. When you're doing something and you receive like a 2-minute long voice note, that's like, oh my God, now I gotta put everything on pause and put this on and listen to it. But it was actually a very good voice note.
I'm sorry. Okay, so from my POV, I think like having really long messages is intimidating. But I can imagine like a girl you met 2 and a bit years ago sending you a random voice note. Intrigue, mystery. So I literally just said like, will you help me find a space? Because I think you might know people. And again, I wanted to say this because you never know. Like if you don't know people, you never know who might know someone that could be of interest to you. And so I messaged you and like we talked about how we can make this space work. And you very kindly gave me your office for the day. But how do we turn this into a studio? Because also like tell me a little bit more about how we set this up, because it looks really cool on camera, but it was a little bit of a DIY effort this morning.
Yeah, honestly, we just showed up and made use of all the things that were already around here, we were lucky that, of course, we got all these lights, we got some nice cameras, and it wasn't too hard of a setup. We added some props that looked decent, and we made it work.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just so important to get creative because nothing has to be super fancy. I don't want to expose myself, but I'm going to do it for the plot of this podcast episode. These mics, the sound that you're hearing right now is not actually coming from this part of the mic. It's coming from like a little fake mic on the back. But those mics are way more affordable than these. And I bought these with me from London. And like I said, in terms of doing things efficiently, you don't have to buy all these fancy equipment or courses or whatever. When I started a business, the first thing I did when I searched up like how to start a business wasn't to buy like a really expensive course or buy all these tools. It was literally just to come up with an idea and think, how can I make the first iteration of this happen? And so with this season as well, it was this idea of, I want to bring visibility and representation to different types of founders and people and creators and builders in different places. Because, for example, the next episode next week is with someone who is of Dutch Moluccan heritage, and her product and her business is all about that. And coming from the community that I do, we don't really have that diversity. And so I really want to travel and show that. And so get creative. Like you really don't need to make your ideas expensive ones. And I'm curious, I want to ask you, Fallon, how, because you said you like making things fun and you've been creating. How did you get started? And like, what's your journey with also like getting going and then getting good?
I got started by I loved watching movies, watching series. I thought it was beautiful. I loved visual media in general. Mm-hmm. So I bought a camera, a little hobby camera that I had to save up for. And I started taking pictures of friends all the time. I brought it everywhere. I brought it to school, brought it on trips. And it became this super cool hobby that I fell in love with. And slowly I looked into ways to like make a little bit of money out of it. So I started taking photos of restaurants, maybe some food items, also parties, stuff that I already enjoyed doing or places I enjoyed being at. I tried to see if I can maybe create some content for them and make some money.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me, it picked up quite slowly. I was still like at uni, I was doing other jobs, I was a waiter. And then slowly it started picking up, made some more connections, word of mouth, you know how it goes. And it ended up getting me to a place where I had a few gigs every month. I could start investing in some gear. And it honestly started snowballing from there, because I got into video from after I initially did only photography. I got into video, and that opened so many more doors, because I studied game design at uni, but I didn't really want to go into the space after. So it was a great way to transition into media. And it got me an internship at a pretty cool advertising agency, which then, I got lucky and I got offered a job, and now I do this for a living.
That's awesome. And this whole idea of literally just do things, what does that mean for you? Do you have a story where you did something, like a project that you worked on, where you just created something before you could overthink about how to make it perfect?
I think when I think about just do things, I think about approaching people, because in our industry, in general media, it's so people based. You need connections, you need to network, you need to put yourself out there, and you need to be really shameless with the way you approach people, because you are trying to create something of value for them. So just be fearless, go approach them. Actually, a lot of the connections I initially made were, basically going physically to places, like going to restaurants, maybe at events, trying to network with organizers, and just putting my work out there. I had a little Instagram page with all my best work, and I just started asking, can I come to your next event, or do you have a new launch? Can I join you guys? I'll do it for free. I used to do so many free gigs just to get more portfolio work and just to meet people. And it really helps once people know you and they see your work and they see that you're doing cool stuff. Gigs will come, and just work will come, or people will come. It's more about you attract what you, or how do I say that?
What were you going to say? Come on.
It sounds kind of silly, but you attract what you already portray. Like,
yeah, no, 100%.
If you portray success, if you show good work, more of it will come. 100%.
And also, like, with this theme of literally just do things, I think it's so important to address that. Like, it starts as, like, the first draft is always rough. I was literally saying at the start of this episode that when I first made this podcast, it wasn't bad, but it was like at a different level of capacity of things that I knew how to do, people that I knew. And so when you start doing things, you gain the momentum. And I think success is built through momentum, not like through luck. I mean, luck is also created through momentum of just acting and doing things. And just like, I think what I want this to be for this season is just this idea of, it's spring now. This season is coming out in April. Go and leave the house and do stuff. If you've had a procrastination list of projects that you've always wanted to work on, but you don't know if you're ready, or maybe you don't have the money, or you don't have the time, make the time to make the first step. Schedule time in your calendar. Make the time to make the first step. You don't need to spend a lot of money. I have managed to do this whole season really, really affordably because I brought the equipment with me on the train. I paid last minute train tickets. We managed to, through asking the right people the right questions, to get this space for free. And then even interviews, I've never paid any of the podcast guests, and I didn't know anyone in Amsterdam, but these interviews came through asking. And so the way the season is going to work is, this episode was just a little bit of behind the scenes, and we're going to overlay some BTS of what it's been like to create this, because it's been so fun. Next week, you're going to have an interview with an awesome Amsterdam founder. And then after that, another one. And then at the end of the season, I'm going to tell you the recipe that I've used to ask for things that have helped me get some of the best founders in Amsterdam on this podcast, some of the best founders in London, some of the best clients, how I managed to pitch to businesses like Google and Chanel at 21 with no actual running business. I think it's so important to learn how to ask for things, not just in terms of how you pose the question, but also giving yourself the permission to just ask for stuff. Because I think for a lot of people, they struggle with not wanting to be too much, or not wanting to be annoying, or feeling that they have to do it all themselves. It takes community, it takes network, it takes a village. And so come join this village for this season and for this Amsterdam era. Also, let me know where you want the podcast to go next, because we've got Amsterdam era. Comment your guesses down below for the next month, because we've got another month. And then I want to keep doing this in different cities. So let me know what you want to see. thank you so much for your time and attention. I'd like to end this episode speaking with you and asking you, because you're the first guy that I've interviewed on this podcast and you're part of making this Amsterdam season happen. So I wanted to give you the spotlight, but how can men either help the Reclaiming Bossy community participate in it or be part of it? Also, like, what does Reclaiming Bossy mean to you? Because whilst this platform is created to spotlight women, I don't want to exclude anyone. And I want everyone to be part of like what we're trying to build. And so what does it mean for you? And like, how are you reclaiming Bossy today?
Good question. I think men overall, with initiatives like yours, we can contribute by, of course, admiring from afar and acknowledging that this is actually supposed to be a space for women to showcase other women's strengths. And I think that, to me, Reclaiming Bossy is being unapologetically yourself and just claiming what you deserve, I think. Because as you said, that statistic about the man named David that get more funding than all women founders, that is insane. And I think highlighting more of these issues, bringing them forward so that people are aware, because I wasn't aware of that at all. That's mission number one. And mission number two, I think, is giving you the space and pushing you forward to be able to continue scaling this up. And of course, where men can contribute, like now I'm happy to do this with you. It's so fun setting up a studio, doing something unfamiliar. And the way it also happened is such a chaotic and fun way to do things. That I think this is what the men's side of things can contribute, because this is a women's initiative for other women.
Yes.
I think men should be kept out of it. Like, honestly, well, just don't involve any men.
No, but you know what? Like, I get so many people and comments being like, do you hate men? Like, why do you, and like I said, when I rebranded this, I really deliberately didn't want it to be her, she, something in the name, because it's not. What I was saying to Marika earlier today was bringing more women to the table is not trying to get rid of men from the table. It's trying to make the table bigger.
Of course, yeah. But I'm on your, you don't need to convince me. I'm saying that the only way I could see men contributing to what you're doing is by if they elevate your process already, if they help bring forward attention to more women, or to more, if they let you have access to something that gets your message across easier.
Who are some of the bossiest women that you'd like to spotlight, like creatives or artists that you respect, or founders or whatever? Okay,
I want to highlight my mom. She's hella bossy, so respect to my mom. Then actually some of my colleagues here, so bossy, and I love it. They know what they want, they know how to get it, and they know how to make me work as well. So nice. my manager was a lady called Isabel. She was the best.
You know, I went around London with like the little mics, doing street interviews, going up to men, being like, "Can you name a single female-founded business?" in the park.
But I think it's more about, I just don't know what business is founded by a man or a woman.
You know, like 8 out of 10 people can't name, in the UK, I don't know what the statistics are in the Netherlands, can't name a single female-founded business. And this doesn't sound important, but the reason it's important is because if you can't name female founders, you don't know they exist. And then young girls don't think it's possible for them, or they don't know that they're like consuming products. And there's like so many things around having role models and inspiration. And then also women make products for women that help like problems that are underfunded or under-researched, or like, I don't know. So it's so important. And so I went around Hyde Park and I was going up to these random guys being like, "Can you name a single female founder? Let's play the word association game. I say bossy, you say."
Damn, okay.
And they said Kim Kardashian, most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, and thank you so much for creating this with me. And I wanted to bring a comment on because I wanted to show that, like I said, Reclaiming Bossy, whilst it's a platform to spotlight female talent, it's a space for everyone. And I really want like all the guys, and not just in my life, but in this community, to have space in their life to listen to female creators, founders, builders, because there's so much that we can learn from different people with different perspectives. So thank you to everyone in this community. We've worked really hard on this season. It's going to be super fun. Stay tuned. It's going to be an amazing month. comment down what you want to see next, where you want this to go in terms of the tour. Also, stay tuned because we're going to bring lots of Amsterdam recommendations and things as well. And Amsterdam April is being kicked off. So enjoy a bossy Amsterdam April. Thank you so much. You want to say bye?
Bye. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. I'm
Okay.
glad to be a part of this.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on as well.